Oh, you're here for, okay, got it. Okay, just Dundas. Hold on a second. Yeah, 2639 Dundas, is that it?
I think this is supposed to do with the proposal for the,
Oh, Ronsdale, here it is.
this is for the drawing.
Here it is. Yeah, is this it here? Yeah, the Dundas Street Western Ronsdale Avenue Build Form Study.
Yes.
Official plan amendment. Yeah. So the item is 34-9. So technically speaking, it's scheduled, all the statutory items are scheduled for 10 o'clock. But we have a lot of them because it's the end of the term. So it could be 10, it could be a little later, but it will be, it's a statutory item. That's when it's like, it will be dealt with in the order. But yeah. Yeah. And you want to speak? Okay. So I'm going to have some staff to look at this right over here. Okay? And you can sign up with them. All right? They're just coming right at the end of this row. Yeah. Oh, they'll call out the item. They'll say TE 34-9. Are there any speakers? Yeah. And you'll get all that direction from the staff. So they're just not quite here yet. They'll be at the very end. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Sit there. The chair will give you
Right.
direction. Okay? Yeah. That's okay. It's the least of our concerns. I think we've got everything written out for this meeting.
On the
Well,
fly.
these-
It's on the fly. Today is on the fly.
I say we call this meeting to order, move the agenda and be done with it.
I mean,
Only?
there's nothing I can do.
I'm sure. Don't fret.
Right. She said, it's too late now. My reputation will be sullied now. Yeah, it seems to. Oh, now, okay, so let me see. So Nicholas has sent, I need to. Alicia, are you okay in the back? You guys
Yes.
can rotate around. I didn't mean to banish you. to the
No
back
worries,
row,
I'm okay.
But we'll rotate you guys around. And maybe if Lori's over here, she can come back and sit.
No worries, I'm okay.
I'm gonna have to leave you guys to your own devices for a little bit.
Yeah, no worries.
Can I send you a motion, Marie? Okay. Yeah, you two are a team with your motions. Yeah, you know, I love doing motions, but I sometimes can't get to it. No, I love it. So you know what, honestly, there you go. That's to you. Words, oh, you were copied on this, yeah.
I did Leah's.
Did Nicholas is sent a few?
Oh, that must have come after.
Yeah, yeah. Do you mind, could I take a look at the Nicholas ones? And then I won't worry about them. Okay.
There's,
All right, so these are, yes, yes, I want to talk to you. Yes. I saw your email, I registered it back on my little page, and then I forgot to send it to you. So what we'll do then is, oh, you still have, oh, right. Oh, I might have,
yeah. So, I don't
so
know
you
if,
know what, we're ready to turn it on? Yeah, so I will work.
and then,
Actually, something, I think they're fine. Let me have a quick look at them. Could I get you to do that? Just give me a second. And then let's do let me just quickly preview. I'm sure it's fine. 2 seconds. Yeah, that's right. That's all checked. Yeah, that was great, and we do have the motion to add. Okay, so what we'll do now is all of the motions, all of the new business, nothing new has been raised since last night. So everything's out there in the pink. In the pink. Right. So what we'll do now is we'll start adding, oh, did anyone bring stickies? I forgot my package. Oh, such as they are.
this
I'm
one
gonna rip you off. Yes.
that one was added.
Great, okay, so this one's good to go, so can you turn on this one and give the right number? All right, and yeah, and then I think I've got another one for you, I got an answer on. Yeah,
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. If I can encourage you and invite you to take a seat, we're going to begin meeting number 34 of the Toronto East Shore Community Council. Thank you very much. We have a very substantial agenda before us, over 205 items so far, and we anticipate that the agenda will continue to grow. I'd like to begin the meeting by acknowledging that the Toronto East Shore Community Council meets on the traditional territories of the Mississaugas of the New Credit, First Nations, the Haudenosaunee, the Huron-Wendat, and home to many diverse Indigenous peoples. Thank you very much. Are there any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Seeing none, thank you. If you declare, you do have to stay for the meeting, yeah, unless it's time to vote. May I have someone to move the confirmation of the minutes from June the 6th, 2018? Councillor Fragedakis. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you. For members of the public who are here to speak to any particular item on the agenda, please let us know. The clerk is on the right-hand side of me, and he will make sure that your name is populated on our speakers list so we don't miss you. Thank you very much. Before we begin the formal proceedings, I'd like to acknowledge that this is the last meeting of Toronto East Shore Community Council. It's the last meeting for us of this term. And during this particular period of time, we've had the pleasure of serving with many distinguished members here. And I'd like to acknowledge that we have at least 3 members who will be serving for the last time this term. Councillor Janet Davis, as well as Councillor Mary McMahon and Councillor Lucy Troisi. It has been an absolute honor to serve with the 3 of you. We have gone through some big adventures here, and I think that this is probably the very finest moment for us as we sadly say goodbye to 3 departing members, especially with the biggest agenda before us so far. I have been advised that an agenda of this size sometimes takes us into midnight. I'm going to do the very best that we can that we don't do that. I have an 18-year-old dog that needs to be walked, and I suspect many of you have other obligations to get back to. Are there any members who would like to offer some remarks?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Councillor, I'd just like to know what time the dinner break is, because I said I'd order in food. So
Sure.
is it 6?
So, Councillor, we have specifically at this meeting timed items at 5:30. We did talk, the clerks and I did agree that we would try to monitor the movement of the items, and we're going to try to have a dinner break around 6:30. Okay? So, Councillor Davis.
I'd like to offer some remarks.
No, I'm offering remarks.
Okay, I will acknowledge.
I'm offering remarks. I'm offering remarks. Just like.
All right.
That was my question, and I did want to offer remarks.
No, I want to go first.
Stop it, you're supposed to go back later.
Councillor Davis, did you want to go first? All right, I think Councillor Fletcher would like to have the floor.
Oh, she's joking. Okay, good. Yesterday I was at Government Management, where the chair there recognized the actual stellar work of Councillor Davis over many years on that committee, someone who knows every report, all of the functionings of the city itself, and all of the divisions and departments. And in her remarks, Councillor Davis talked about the staff and the incredible knowledge that they have and the work that they do, and how important Government Management Committee is in knowing the inner workings of the city and being able to keep an eye on things, the accountability framework, but acknowledging the hard work of the public service. I also mentioned that she had chaired the CDR under Mayor Miller for 3 years. And then also, we should note that Councillor Davis was one of the chairs of Toronto and East York Community Council. Can you remember that far back, Councillor? Yes? Now, a great chair, and I think just Councillor Perks and myself were here during your tenure as chair, Councillor Davis. So we remember the good job that you did. You are a stellar councillor. You know your business. You know the files. Whether people agree with you or don't agree with you, they know that you know what you're talking about, and you bring an enlightenment to all the issues that you deal with. And I just want to say, and we got elected together. We've done many good things together. Anyone who has a swimming pool in a school in their ward, anywhere in the city, has Councillor Davis to thank for that, the championship of recreation and childcare. But in saving all those pools, thank you very much for every time a child swims, Janet, for that work and for everything else that you've done. Very popular in her community, well loved in her community, and I wish you well in your retirement, although I do think you'll probably be sitting out there making some deputation right there for your 5 minutes as often as you are interested in, and you'll be a champion outside these walls as you have been inside these walls. So thank you for your years of service.
Councillor Layton.
I know we have a big agenda, so I'll be very brief. I wanted to commend Councillor Troisi for, while we only worked together for a short time, I think that she took up the position very quickly and was able to navigate some, with the support of her staff, some very complex files in what is a very complicated ward, and that should be commended. Many of us don't have the level of development that you inherited, and you've done quite a good job in a short period of time. Councillor McMahon, if you have an issue on your mind, there is nothing that can't stop you from moving it forward. We sometimes disagree. It's mainly been on minor things. And it's been a pleasure to sit next to you in the back row of council and serve with you now as your chair on the Parks and Environment Committee. I'll have some words at the Parks and Environment Committee for you there. And Councillor Davis, I don't know if many know, my first job at City Hall was in Councillor Davis's office as an intern the year after she got elected. I served as an unpaid intern in her office as a work placement student from the planning school at York University. And it was very clear at that earliest stage just how passionate Councillor Davis is about her community and about her work here at City Hall. The attention to detail, the deep institutional understanding that you have, Councillor Davis, is going to be sorely missed. I know that I'll miss calling you up and getting the background on issues that she'll be hopefully calling me up and helping me through some of the documents. Nobody reads more. I think we heard jokes when many of us started 8 years ago about another councillor about Howard Moscow. That he had good attention to detail. I think that you've now taken on that role and on City Council, and for that we should all be very count ourselves as very fortunate. The other point that I'll just make very quickly is I don't think there's been a stronger advocate for childcare in the City of Toronto, and being a parent with one child in childcare and hopefully a second, I just wanted to thank you very deep down in my wallet for all of the hard work that you've done on that file. We're going to need to find a new advocate on that file. There are many of us that I think would have an understanding of it that will be calling you up to try to get your support navigating that file. But thank you, just from deep down from the beginning of my career to now, having children in a system that needed an advocate. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, councillors. There will be other opportunities to speak. I would, and because there are still standing committee meetings to conclude, as well as an opportunity at City Council, we have a very large agenda. But before I move forward, I wanted to just acknowledge the councillors who are departing. Would you like to say a few words? Councillor Davis.
Thank you so much. I do particularly want to speak at this committee because this is a group of councillors who exemplify excellence, hard work, integrity, who are working to build a great city. And I'm not sure that well, let me back up. That's why I want to say it in this venue. Every single one of you here have been good friends. You have been wonderful colleagues. And I know that this is the hardest workload in this community council. And you do remarkable work to make sure that you represent your communities at the same time understanding, with a deep understanding about the challenges of the planning framework we're working in here. And you have taken the lead, so many of you around this table, to challenging the systemic problems with the planning process, both at council and beyond. And there have been changes as a result of the advocacy of people around this table. And I want to thank you for that. We will hopefully in the future have greater control over planning, and this community council will have much greater control over the kind of communities they want to see develop in the future. I also wanted to say thank you to all of the staff who are here. From legal, Brian and Linda and all the others in the planning and legal division. You are exceptional professionals. You do amazing work every day, and I appreciate your skill, knowledge, and commitment to your work and to our city. I also want to thank our clerks. I hear someone. To Ellen, to the committee administrators who also do miracles every single month to make sure that our agendas are organized, that all the reports are in, that the bylaws are accurate. It is incredible work you do, not behind the scenes, in front here, and we recognize it around this table. So thank you for all that work that you do. And I just say, finally, it's been a difficult choice to leave, but I want to get back some of my personal life, and I'm sure every one of you around this table at some point are going to feel exactly the same way, to go on to do the things that you don't have time to do now. And I look forward to seeing you in a different venue than around this table, in a restaurant over a beer, or maybe Paula on the golf course. Oh, goody. You'll have to teach me. So thank you again very much. You are wonderful, wonderful colleagues, and I've appreciated your friendship and support all these years. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McMahon.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, collegial colleagues, as I call you. I'm looking for the champagne, but I guess that's coming later. So growing up in Collingwood with my dad as a mayor, I vowed I'd never go into politics because I thought they were dumb, stupid, useless, boring, whatever teenagers think. And boy, was I wrong. And so my first debut, I guess, here was with my kids crawling under the tables as I came down to crusade for the pesticide bylaw. And I thought, wow, these guys can do good work. They have the power to do great work. And so slowly it began to grow in my head, the idea to jump in here. And I did, but I did, with my strong belief of term limits. If we want to have gender equity, youth, and more diversity on council, I think there needs to be something like term limits, ranked ballots, whatever it is, electoral reform to allow for that. So I came in, and it's been a great ride for 8 years, and I have to say you all are, whether we agree or disagree, and parking pads will be forever my nightmare. Thank you, Mr. Perks et al. You do love your city, you work tremendously hard, and you want to build a better town. And I really respect that and admire you for all your work. And staff, you know, we put you through the ringer, and you work endlessly for us. You are salt of the earth, and you don't get enough respect in this town, but I'm happy to build you up with billboards on the outside as to how great you are. So thank you very much for the ride.
Councillor Troisi.
Yes, I will say a few words. Good morning. You know, I'm actually just starting to learn how this really operates, actually. But when I first got here, it was quite intimidating. Even though I had 30 years experience at City Hall, I was never in this position. And my two bookends here really made me feel comfortable in terms of going through the agendas and making sure that I knew when I was to tee off. So thanks to, yes, in terms of, yes, Paula will be golfing. What I like best about this particular committee is the fact that the public gets to depute, and you learn all sorts of things about the entire city, former city of Toronto and East York. So that's been, you know, I enjoy this committee out of all the committees that I sit on. And I've met and worked with many of you around here just because the different elements of this ward touched on many of yours. So I thank you for all that support. And the staff who I've been really working with for on many of the development projects in particular, constantly. There's at least 2 or 3 developments that come to our attention every day, it seemed. So that took up a lot of our time. So thank you, and thank the clerks as well. And yeah, so who knows, maybe I will have a political future at some point, but time will tell. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Thank you. Okay, so that had to be done. These are hardworking councillors that we're saying goodbye to, and this particular venue, we love you very much for all that you've done. But before you go, we are going to put you through the ringer and make you do some work. We are beginning our agenda on page number 144. The item is TE 3482. Appointments to Business Improvement Area Boards of Management. Wards 20, 21, and 22. Yep. Councillor Cressy? So I'll repeat that again. On the goldenrod papers on page 144, we're starting at TE 34.82. You're holding this? Okay. Okay, that's held by Councillor Fletcher. TE 34.83, proposed official naming of a future park at 20 Adelaide Place, Ward 20.
I'm going to adopt the staff recommendations. I would just note, though, that the Local Residents Association has a proposed name that they're going to be consulting on this summer in the public, and so I expect that this will be an interim name as we bring forward a community consensus early in the new year.
Thank you very much, Councillor. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. TE 34.84, request to name the staircase and green space adjacent to Deer Park Junior and Senior Public School in honor of Jeffrey E. Mann, Ward 22.
I submitted a motion, and there should be a revised motion. Yes.
Okay, the motion is on the screen. All those in favor? Any opposed? Item as amended. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, Councillor. TE 34.85, request to name the playground in Lino Conacher Park in honor of Bill R. Davis, Ward 22.
I move the recommendation.
Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. TE 34.86, official plan amendment to future protect heritage views of City Hall, Old City Hall, and St. James Cathedral, Ward 20, 27, and 28. Okay, Councillor Cressy? Okay. I will move to adopt the staff recommendations. Thank you very much. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. TE 34.84, 440, 444, 450, and 462 Front Street West, 425, 439, 441, and 443 Wellington Street West, 6-11 Spadina Avenue, and 1 and 19 Draper Street, Urban Design Guidelines, Final Report, Ward 20.
I'm going to move the staff recommendations. This comes out of the well, and it's updated urban design guidelines for the site plan.
Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. TE 34.88, University of Toronto St. George Campus, Official Plan Amendment Application Status Report, Ward 20.
I have 2 amendments, if they can be put on the screen. And with these amendments, which is as part of the, to look at some of the adjacent zoning as part of the secondary plan review, with these amendments, I can move it. And I'll apologize now to my colleagues. I have 53 items on today's agenda, so you're going to hear my voice a lot.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Beat Scarborough by myself.
Councillor, thank you. All those in favor of the motion on the screen? Any opposed? Item as amended. Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. T 34.89, City Initiated Young's St. Clair's Secondary Plan Review, Ward 22.
I move the recommendation.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. TE 34.90, St. Jamestown Connects Framework, St. Jamestown Public Realm and Open Space Plan, Final Report, Ward 28.
Move staff recommendations. Thank you.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.91, Main Street Planning Study, Update Report, Ward 3132.
Is there a speaker on this?
I've just been informed that there is, and
So I was just wondering if we could see that, do that with the Danforth Planning Study, which is TE 34.91, and do them together?
Unfortunately, Councillor, we're not going to be able to vary the order of the papers simply because of the new proceeding and rules. But noted, there is a speaker. This item will be held down for the speaker when it comes up. So sorry about that.
Okay. Tried.
TE, these are items deferred from June the 6th, 2018. TE 34.92, Assumption of Services, Bridgepoint Health Subdivision, Register Plan 66M-2468, Ward 30.
Move these staff recommendations.
Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed?
They're surprised.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carry. Thank you. TE 34.93, Repeal of Part Lot Control Exemptions Bylaw, Ward 2028.
I'm going to move the staff recommendations in the supplementary report.
Okay. All those in favor? Is that correct? Oh. Any opposed? Carried. TE 34.94, the Wellington Destructor 677 Wellington Street West, City Initiated Zoning Amendment Preliminary Report, Ward 19.
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to adopt the staff recommendations and just very quickly say this is an exciting project, revitalizing an old municipal incinerator in Ward 19 for a community economic development purpose. This will probably be the first of many motions to come in the future, well, in the next term, along the development of this site, but it's an exciting first step.
Thank you, Councillor. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.95, 300 Bloor Street West and 478 Huron Street, Zoning Amendment Preliminary Report, Ward 20.
I'm going to have to hold that down for a moment as I'm working through an amendment.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. TE 34.96, 55-61 Charles Street East, Zoning Bylaw Amendment and Rental Housing Demolition Application, Preliminary Report, Ward 27. I would move the staff recommendations in the report. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. TE 34.97, 238-280 Wellesley Street East and 650 Parliament Street, Official Plan Amendment, Zoning Amendment, and Rental Housing Demolition Application, Preliminary Report, Ward 28.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll move staff recommendations.
Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.98, 1151 Queen Street East, Zoning Amendment Application, Preliminary Report, Ward 30.
Chair, I'll move the staff recommendations. Of course, having a consultation meeting in July is not optimum. And note, this is one of the 7-Elevens that's closed down. They have all closed down across the city. This is one of those sites. And also to note that there's only one convenience store left in the whole of Leslieville. Many have been closed down for rent surging or just redevelopment. So hopefully we'll get a convenience store in the grounds.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor, can you just move the microphone closer to your mouth in that
Would you
direction?
like me to say it all over again?
No, we. Yeah. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.99, construction staging area, 250 Davenport Road and 181 Bedford Road, non-delegated, Ward 20.
I have an amendment, if it can be put on the screen, which is for the hoarding art to be done in partnership with the local community-run local art. This is a TCHC revite. And can I just say a huge thank you to Transportation Services, because this construction, the bike lane sidewalk and TTC bus lanes are all being protected throughout it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councillor. All those in favor of the motion on the screen? Any opposed? Item as amended. Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. T 34-100, construction staging area time extension, 49 to 51 Camden Street, Ward 20.
I'll move the staff recommendations, and with thanks to the Residents Association for informing an improvement on Brant Street with this.
Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.101, construction staging area, Pears Avenue, 250 Davenport Road and 181 Bedford Road, delegated.
I'm going to move an amendment. This is again for public art in partnership with the local community into all the Harding. And with that amendment, I can move the staff recommendations.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Item as amended. Any opposed? Carried. TE 34.102, construction staging area time extension, Blue Jays Way and Mercer Street, 355 King Street West, Ward 20.
I'm going to move the staff recommendations on this one.
Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.103, construction staging area, Blue Jays Way, 357 King Street West, Ward 20.
I have an amendment, which is on this one to work with steps. And you don't have that yet? I'm going to hold this down then, sorry, for 1 sec. This is 103?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to hold this down for 1 second to prepare that amendment. My apologies.
Now we're heading to still deferred items from June 6, 2018, construction staging area 15-35 Mercer Street. Item title is TE 34.104, Ward 20.
My apologies. I need to continue to hold this down as I resolve it as well.
Okay, that's held for you, Councillor.
Thank you.
T 34.105, construction staging area, Forest Hill Road, 200 St. Clair Avenue West, Ward 22. Councillor Matlow.
105.
105,
I begrudgingly approve the recommendation.
Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. T 34.106, installation and removal of on-street accessible parking spaces, June 2018, delegated. Councillor Perks.
So I'll move approval.
Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Oh, I apologize. There might be an amendment. Councillor Fletcher has an amendment. She's right there.
On-street accessible parking spaces, 106.
Okay, Councillor Fletcher, would you like to move your amendment? Okay, thank you. Amendment is on the screen. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Item is amended. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. So consider that moved by Councillor Fletcher, I think. Okay. TE 34.107, installation and removal of on-street accessible parking spaces, June, non-delegated, Ward 14. Councillor Perks. Item number 107.
Move approval.
Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carry, thank you. T 34-108, installation of parking machines and loading zones, Nelson Street, Ward 20.
I'll move the staff recommendations. Thank you.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried, thank you. T 34.109, accessible loading zone, Church Street, Ward 28.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'll move staff recommendations.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.110, accessible loading zone, Henry Lane Terrace, Ward 28.
Again, I'll move staff recommendations. Thank you.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.111, road alterations, Merton Street, Ward 22.
I move approval.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.112, student pickup drop-off area, Madison Avenue, Ward 20.
I have an amendment, if that can be put on the screen. And with that, I can move it. And it's just so people know, this is a new school pickup and drop-off area. We're amending it slightly so that it can comply with the construction site that's going to come next year. So we want to make sure we're planning ahead on that. So with that amendment, I can move it. To replace the recommendations with these amendments.
Thank you very much, Councillor. The reason I'm pausing is because my screen keeps jumping, so the text pops on and off. If I can just ask AB to come and take a look at my screen, that's fine. But the motion is on the back screen before you. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Item as amended. Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. TE 34.113, realignment of permit parking area 3G to exclude the development located at 1025 DuPont Street, Ward 18.
Okay, so that's me this morning. I'm Anna. I won't do as good of a job, but I would like to move staff recommendations, please.
That was very well done, Councillor. Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. T 34.114, introduction of overnight on-street permit parking, Lankin Boulevard, Ward 29.
Move the recommendations in the report.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carry. T 34.115, payment in lieu of parking, 399 Dundas Street West, Ward 20.
I'm going to move the staff recommendations. Thank you.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.116, short-term parking, Dalhousie Street, Ward 27. I would move the recommendations in the staff report. I thought I had an amendment on this. Is there an amendment? No. Okay, so just moving the recommendations in the staff report, and to thank staff for coming out to do the site visits. Dalhousie has been largely rendered unsafe because of now what will be the two bookend construction sites, and we're hoping to remedy that with some changes to the parking regulations. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Okay. T 34.117, notice amendments, curb lane vending locations delegated. Notice of pending, there was a notice of pending report, which is now before us, Ward 2028.
At the request of staff, this is being withdrawn. So I'll move to withdraw the item at the request of staff.
Yeah, all those in favor? Hold this. Hold it.
Just hold the motion up there for the person to, sorry.
Sorry, what?
Okay, thank you very much. Motion to withdraw from the agenda before us. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. P 34.118, parking amendments, various code chapters, curb lane vending, locations non-delegated, wards 20, 27, 28. Would like to take that?
Sure. I'll
Councillor
move
Troisi?
approval of staff recommendations. Thank you.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.119, traffic and parking amendments, St. Helens Avenue and Wittstock Avenue, Ward 18.
And I'm going to move staff recommendations, please.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.120, traffic and parking amendments, Baldwin Street between Spadina Avenue and Augusta Avenue, Ward 20.
I'm going to move the staff recommendations. Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Okay, so we've now I think we've now concluded the deferred items. That's a good thing. TE 34.121, and parking amendments, Old Park Road, Ward 21. Yes.
Are you taking Councilor Mahavic's
Yes,
items?
I am.
Okay.
So I'm doubling as Joe Mahavik.
Okay,
Couldn't think of
you'll do
better
a great
person
job,
to double
Councillor.
as. I am. I'm honored. Approve staff recommendations.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.122, parking amendments, Roehampton Avenue, Ward 22. Councillor Matlow.
I move the report.
All those in favor, adopting the recommendations? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. T 34.123, parking amendments, Spadina Road, Ward 22.
I support the report. I move it.
Moving the recommendations in the report. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. T 34.124, parking amendments, Hazelton Avenue, Ward 27. Moving the recommendations in the staff report. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. TE 34.125, parking amendments, Jarvis Street, Ward 27. I will be moving to adopt the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.126, parking amendments, Donlands Avenue, Ward 29.
Thank you very much. This is that council adopt the recommendations in the report.
Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.127, parking amendments, Arundel Avenue, Ward 29.
I'm going to hold this item because this item is actually part of item 149, and I'm going to hold that one as well. Just getting a revised staff report, so I've been asked by staff for the revisions to be.
And you're also holding 149?
Yes.
Okay. T 34.128, parking amendments, Austin Avenue, Ward 30. Councillor Fletcher.
128.
I'm sorry, Councillor, I can't hear you.
Sorry, I didn't have that on. Move the recommendations. Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. T 34.129, parking amendments, Logan Avenue, Ward 30.
Move the recommendations.
Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.130, parking amendments, Wagstaff Drive, Ward 30.
Move that sine die, please.
All those in favor? Any opposed?
Defer indefinitely.
You want her to say it non-Latin, okay.
Non-Latin? I love Latin.
Okay.
Right.
Motion to defer indefinitely. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.131, parking amendments, Main Street and Hampstead Avenue, Ward 31.
I'll move adoption of the staff recommendations.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.132, parking amendments, Woodbine Avenue, Ward 31, 32.
I'll move adoption of the staff recommendations.
Oh,
It has to do with parking. Oh, there's some on your side, too.
yes.
Okay, we'll move it together.
This is what we call teamwork. Okay. Motion before us, all those
Your last meeting, let's
staff
take a
recommendations
recorded
before.
vote.
How would you like to do this? We're getting ready to vote. Is that okay?
I just wanted to thank staff,
Oh, please do.
if I could. These are changes that were made in response to the implementation of the Woodbine bike lanes, and demonstrates how they have been able to accommodate and make adjustments to make sure that we are making entrances and exits out of driveways safer, and making the bike lane overall safer for pedestrians and cyclists. So thank you to the transportation staff.
Great. Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Mag, did you also want to speak? No. We're ready to vote? Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.133, parking amendments, Woodmount Avenue, Ward 31.
I'll move adoption of the staff recommendations.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. I was wrong. We have a deferred item from June the 6th. T 34.134, Traffic Safety, Sudan Avenue, Ward 22.
I approve the staff report.
Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.134, 12, 14, and 16 York Street Underground Pedestrian Path Tunnel, Ward 20.
I'm going to move staff recommendations. Thank you.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.138, encroachment of a fence, 31 Maple Avenue. Yeah, 136. Yeah, 31 Maple Avenue, Ward 27. Is there a speaker on this? Yes, there are speakers on this. We're going to hold this item. There are 3 speakers. Okay. Thank you. T 34.137, pedestrian tunnel connecting 587, 599 Yonge Street to Wellesley Subway Station, Ward 27. I will move to adopt the staff recommendations and to thank them for their work. We're getting further connected with our developments to the subway stations. That's exactly how we should be doing it. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.138, Rivertown proposed road safety improvements, Ward 30.
Just going to hold that to talk to staff before we approve that, Madam Chair.
Okay. All those in, okay. Oh, sorry, that's a hold.
Thank you.
Yep. T 34.139, temporary adjustments to parking regulations for 218 Canadian National Exhibition, delegated Ward 14.
I'm going to move approval and remind everyone that when you go to the X, take transit.
Very good suggestion. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.140, temporary adjustments to the traffic and parking regulations for 2018 Canadian National Exhibition, non-delegated, Ward 14.
And if you can't take transit, take a bike. I'll move approval.
Okay, all those in favor? Staff recommendations? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. T 34.141, traffic regulations, Beatty Avenue and Dowling Avenue, Ward 14.
So I'm going to move approval and note that it's way easier to get the bike plan implemented here than it is at City Council.
All those in favor of that motion and the speech? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.142, stop control Indian Trail and Indian Grove, Ward 14.
I'm going to move approval.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.143, pedestrian crossover Wellington Street West at Stanley Terrace, Ward 19.
Move the staff recommendations, please.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.144, traffic control signal Spadina Avenue and driveway of 371 Bloor Street West, Ward 20.
I'm going to move staff recommendations to install this, and with huge thanks to Transportation Services.
There's a speaker? I apologize, Councillor. There is a speaker on this item. Okay, so we will hold that for the speaker.
If I could just ask if it may speed things up, if the speaker could identify themselves to me at some point, I'm happy to have a conversation.
T 34.145, traffic control signals Queen Street West and McCall Street, Ward 20.
I'm going to move the staff recommendations with tremendous thanks to Transportation Services for this long-needed and much appreciated by OCAD traffic light.
Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.146, traffic control signals Bathurst Street and Melgun Road, Ward 21. Councillor Fragedakis, also
It's a Mihevc item.
Councillor Mihevc. It's a 146.
And it says here to move staff recommendations.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.147, stop control Sydney Street at Cottingham Street, Ward 22.
I have a
Quick question of staff before I move it.
Okay, we're going to have to hold that down, sorry. T 34.148, Traffic Management Plan, Glen Road, Ward 27. I would move the staff recommendations and thank staff for their hard work. By the time we finish reconstructing Glen Road, we'll probably have the city's first fully redesigned, fully reconstructed Vision Zero street. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you very much. TE 34.149, Traffic Management Plan, Plater Estates Community, Ward 29, Councillor Frajadakis
holding that.
is holding that. Thank you.
Request of staff.
Yeah. T 34.150, two-way operation, Pearl Street, Ward 28.
Thank you. Moving approval of staff recommendations.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.151, turn prohibitions, Gled Hill Avenue and Oak Park Avenue, Ward 31. Councillor Davis is not here. We're going to hold, oh, is she here? Councillor Davis, we're on item number 151.
Yeah, like she reads everything, right?
Adopt the staff recommendations.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.152, traffic calming speed humps, Brunswick Avenue, Ward 20.
I'm going to move the alternate recommendations to install them.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Item as amended. Any opposed? Carried. T 34.153, traffic calming speed humps, Imperial Street, Ward 14.
In fact, it's Ward 22.
It's Ward 22.
Oh.
I was going to say.
Ward 22.
That I concur.
Okay.
Yes.
Encroaching.
Councillor Matlow.
Well, we are Imperial. We're taking over. Yeah. So I'm going to move the, hold on for a moment, the alternates recommendations to proceed with the polling.
All those, oh,
Yeah, we'll change your motion after.
okay, we're just going to change the name of the councillor who's moving
That's
the
a good
motion.
idea.
All those in,
My ward, Councilor McMahon's motion.
is that the right street?
That's the next one.
I don't think that's the right street.
We're on 153. Imperial Street?
So the next item is in my ward as well, so.
Yeah, hang on tight, councillor. We just want to make sure we get the right language on this.
Thank you.
He wants to move the alternative recommendations.
We see the debates over parking pads.
Not ready? Okay, Councillor Mallow, I apologize. We're not quite ready to move your motion. We don't have
Yeah,
that
we'll get the
drafted up.
We'll get the right alternate recs.
Okay, with the right name of the councillor, with the right street address. So we're going to hold that down for you.
Would that pertain to the next item as well?
Not sure. So TE 34.154, traffic calming speed humps, Lawton Boulevard, Ward 32.
And in fact, it's in Ward 22.
Yeah, like they're breaking Matlow's ward up.
I haven't checked the new ward boundaries in that much detail, but I don't think they've changed that much.
Is there a motion for one? We don't have a motion. Councillor, how would you like to proceed with 154?
You just had up for this one.
Are you moving
So
the staff recommendations?
no, I'm going to move the alternate recommendation to proceed with the polling.
Yeah, if you put 153 back up.
Do you need time to deal with these? So why don't we hold the two of them down for the moment and then take your time, get them right, and then we'll bring it back.
Thank you very much, Councillor. We're holding down 153, 154. Everything will be sorted out soon. T 34.155, traffic calming speed humps, Metcalf Street, Ward 28.
Thank you. I'll move alternative recommendations to approve the speed humps.
Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you. TE 34.156, traffic calming speed humps, Neville Park Boulevard, Ward 32.
And I'll move the alternate recommendations as well to install the speed humps.
Motion is on the screen, right councillor name, right address. We're in good shape.
Thanks,
All
Clerk.
those in favor of the motion on the screen? Any opposed? Item as amended. Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. T 34.157, speed humps poll results, Vanali Street, Ward 20.
I'll move the alternate recommendations to install.
Motion's on the screen. All those in favor? Any opposed? Item as amended. Any opposed? Carried. T 34.158, speed humps poll results, Hanson Street, Ward 32.
And I'll move the alternate recommendations on these ones as well.
All those,
No, it was fine.
all those in favor? Motion's on the screen. Okay. Item as
Oh, do I have to say no poll now for with the new policy, am I saying no poll on both of those, on all of them? So if I could say no poll on 158 and 156, that would be great.
158.
Hanson and
Counselor,
Neville
we're going to
Park.
have to hold that down for you, I believe, because we now need to amend that motion.
Okay.
Can I, point of order, Speaker, Chair, I just want to be clear on those, because the motion that passed at council allows a councillor to remove the speed humps from the polling and petition requirements. So my understanding is if you don't remove those requirements, then it will proceed as it always did. And the clerk is nodding her head. So even though that was excluded, it allows the discretion to take those speed humps out of the normal process. That's why I mentioned that to you, Councillor McMahon.
I appreciate that. So would I need to reopen T156? Because we already passed that?
No, hang on. Let me just have a side conversation here.
Thank you.
I just want to clarify that so we don't.
Appreciate that. Yep.
Councillor McMahon, please move to reopen 156, and then we're going to hold it for
Okay.
you while this, the
Thank
clerk's.
you very much, and
correct
sorry to
motion.
cause commotion already at this early hour, because there'll be lots later. So I move to reopen 156, traffic calming on Neville Park, and we'll,
All those in favor to reopen? Thank you very much. Any oppo- And now we're holding 156 as well as 158 for Councillor McMahon. Okay. Everyone's doing great. This is a big agenda, lots of complications and changes in policy. TE 34.159, proposed installation of speed bumps, first east-west public lane north of Danforth Avenue between Thyra Avenue and Victoria Park Avenue, Ward 31.
I'd like to defer that indefinitely. There's some construction about to take place and some property acquisition that is underway. So it'll have to be brought back once we acquire the piece of property necessary.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor. All those in favor? Deferral motion, any opposed? Carried. TE 34.160, conduct a poll for calming measures on Montrose Avenue between College Street and Dundas Street West, Ward 19.
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to just hold this item down and the next item, 161. I have a small amendment that my staff will be sending to the clerk.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Layton. We're holding down 160 and 161. I'm just going to read into the public record. The title of 161, it's calming measures on Roxton Road between Bloor Street West and Harbor Street. Both items held. Moving along, TE 34.162, extending Shoppers Drug Mart female hygiene pilot project, Ward 27. We're going to hold that down. We have a speaker on the item. We're moving on to TE 34.163, nominations for appointments to the Board of Management of the Ralph Thornton Community Center, Ward 30.
Like, move to approve.
All those in favor?
Move to approve.
Any opposed? Carried. T 34.164, endorsement of events for liquor licensing purposes. I will hold that down in case there are amendments and last-minute additions. T 34.165, parking amendments, Sunnyside Avenue, Ward 14.
I'll happily move to introduce items 165 through 207.
That is correct, Councillor. Motion be for us to expand the agenda. All those in favor? Any opposed? I know you really want to oppose. Okay, it passes. Thank you. Then we're moving on to T 34.165, parking amendments, Sunnyside Avenue, Ward 14.
I will move the recommendations in my letter.
Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.166, parking amendment for Bartlett Avenue, north of Bloor Street West, Ward 18, who I believe is Councillor McMahon.
Number was that again?
We're on item number
166. So we will just adopt, I'll move us to adopt staff recommendations. Thanks.
Okay, all those in favor? It's the recommendations in the letter. Any opposed? Carried. TE 34.167, Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario liquor license application, 1576 Dundas Street West, Sake Bar, Ward 18.
And I'll move the recommendations of the letter, please.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.168, installation of an all-way stop control on Franklin Avenue and Antler Street, Ward 18.
I will move the recommendations in the letter.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.169, parking amendments on Salem Avenue between Hallam Street and Hallam Street.
And that will be ditto.
Okay.
I'll move the recommendations in the letter.
Okay. Is the title correct? It's Salem Avenue between Hallam Street and Hallam Street.
Yep. Oh, yeah, the revised. Yep. And,
sorry.
and Fernbank it has in the revised, so.
Yes, there is, sorry, councillors, there is a revised letter from Councillor Bailao, and I think there's a revision in the content of the body as well as the title, so it's between Hallam Street and Fernbank Street. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you. T 34.170, Macaulay Avenue, installation of speed humps, Ward 18.
And I move the recommendations in the letter, please. Revised letter.
There's another one? Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.171, parking amendments, Liberty Street, Ward 19. Councillor Layton?
Yes, I'd like to adopt the recommendation in the letter.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.172, 61 to 69 Niagara Street, Heritage Designation, Ward 19.
Yes, I'd like to adopt the recommendations in the letter to examine some properties for heritage consideration.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.173, all-way stop control at the intersection of Richmond Street West and Walnut Avenue, Ward 19.
Again, I would like to adopt the recommendations in the letter for an all-way stop control at Richmond and Walnut.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.174, school bus loading zone on the south side of Richmond Street West, west of Bathurst Street, Ward 19.
Yes, after actually the school studies that the Catholic schools have been doing around school protection zones, this was identified as being one of the things that we could do to help the flow of traffic around the school happens a little bit more safely, and so I'm happy to put this forward.
All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you. T 34.175, Barton Avenue, no entry restriction, Ward 20.
I'm going to move the recommendations in my letter.
All those, oh, sorry.
With apologies to Brian from City Legal behind me, who drives this route daily, he told me this morning.
All those in favor of changing Brian's travel patterns? No. All those in favor of the recommendations in the letter? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. T 34.176, traffic and parking amendments, Brant Street, Ward 20.
I'm going to move the recommendations in my letter.
Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.177, Grange Green Plan, Ward 20.
So I'm going to move the recommendations in my letter, and if I could just say 20 seconds here. Over the last year and a half, the neighborhood in the Grange, so through the Grange Community Association, working with our office, have created a 26-page document looking throughout the entire Grange neighborhood at all the spaces to improve greening. Flankage corners, alleyways, new parkette opportunities. We did this in Harvard Village. The local community has now initiated this in the Grange, and this is going to be part of our process of greening neighborhoods rather than alongside trying to build new parks and neighborhoods. And so with thanks to the Grange, I'm happy to move the recommendations in my letter.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. TE 34.178, this is a reopening of item TE 33.87, speed hump, Nassau Street, Ward 20.
Yeah, I have a reopening from last night to exclude the poll, from last month, excuse me, so I'll move the recommendations in my letter.
Okay, all those in favor to reopen? Any opposed? And then recommendations from the letter. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. TE 34.179, reopening item TE 33.88, speed humps Robert Street, Ward 20.
This is the same reopening, and I'll move the recommendations in my letter.
Okay, all those in favor to reopen? Any opposed? Recommendations in the letter. Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. Councillor, we now know why you have so many items.
10 new business items.
Okay, TE 34.180, Spadina Crescent and Russell Street, traffic control signal, Ward 20.
Staff have asked me to bring this forward, and so I'm happy to move the recommendations in my letter to install this new crossing.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.181, traffic regulations and speed bumps, Sussex Mews, Ward 20.
Again, I'm going to move the recommendation in my letter for new speed bumps.
All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. T 34.182, exclusion of the development located at 834 to 840 St. Clair Avenue West from permit parking area 13G, Ward 21.
Move the recommendations in the letter.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.183, Vision Zero recommendations, Ward 21.
I think maybe they're out of order. Okay, I'll move the recommendations in the letter.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.184, Clarendon Road parking amendments, Ward 22.
Sorry, Madam Speaker, what
Yes.
happened to 1996 to 2000 Bathurst Street?
I don't have it on the agenda before me,
Oh, it's not.
Oh, okay, sorry then, thank you very much.
so let's just move along. T 34.184, Clarendon Road parking amendments, Ward 22.
I move the recommendations in my letter.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.185, Fox Bar Road parking amendments, Ward 22.
I move the recommendations in my letter.
Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.186, alterations to a heritage property and amendment of a heritage easement agreement, 51 Bond Street, Ward 28, but it's actually Ward 27.
Yeah, correct.
Thank you very much. I will be moving, can you put the motion on the screen, please? Moving a motion on. So this item will be forwarded to City Council without recommendation. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.187, inclusion of the city's Heritage Registrar 37, 39, 41, and 43 Mutual Street, and intention to designate under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act 37 Mutual Street, Ward 27. Okay, putting the motion onto the screen. We're moving this forward to City Council without recommendation. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.188, parking amendments, George Street, Ward 28.
Thank you. I'll be approving the recommendations.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.189, standing prohibition on Chester Hill, west of Thorncliffe Avenue, Ward 29.
Very much, I'll move the recommendations in my letter.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.190, installing speed humps on Gleebholm Boulevard between Greenwood and Coxwell Avenues, Ward 29.
Move the recommendations in the letter.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.191, reducing a speed limit from 40 kilometers per hour to 30 kilometers per hour on Greenwood Avenue between O'Connor Drive and Mortimer Avenue, Ward 29.
Yes, thank you. And I just want 20 seconds to thank, I'm going to move the recommendations in the letter, and I want to actually thank staff in transportation after many years that this road was reclassified earlier this year. This is actually basically an exit from the Don Valley Parkway, and as people come right off the Don Valley Parkway, they come speeding down Greenwood Avenue. So I appreciate the reclassification of the road, and so do the constituents that live on Greenwood Avenue.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. TE 34.192, installing speed humps on Langford Avenue between Danforth and Aldwych Avenues, Ward 29.
Move the recommendations in the letter.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.193, heritage listing for 28-30 Langley Avenue, Ward 30.
Thank you. This is a former nurse's residence to the Cholera Hospital, which predated Riverdale Hospital. It's also a licensed rooming house with 24 people living in it that is currently being gentrified, and it's a beautiful building. It needs to be listed. We're also working with the tenants around this.
Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.194, Cherry Street parking, Ward 30.
This is a request from staff for technical amendment. I'll move it.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.195, Empire Avenue technical amendment, Ward 30.
Request from staff to align the signs and the bylaw.
Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.196, Paisley Avenue parking changes, Ward 30.
Change the hour to 1 hour parking on Paisley. Move that.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.197, pedestrian safety around Hideaway Park, Ward 30.
I'll move the recommendations in the letter, but that is from a site visit that we did with staff to come up with some ways to make all of the lanes safer that surround this small hidden park. Therefore, it's called Hideaway Park.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.198, Ode East York Village hydro pole relocation status report, Ward 31. Councillor Davis, we're going to hold that.
Oh, that's the hydro pole, famous one.
T 34.199, speed hump installation on Salmon Avenue between Coxwell Avenue and Woodbine Avenue, Ward 31. We're holding this. T 34.200, front yard parking appeal, 42 Bellhaven Road, Ward 32.
What number was that?
We're at item 200.
200.
It's your parking pad on Bellhaven.
Okay, can a parking pad? Can I stand that down? Thanks.
Councillor McMahon, you could also move to adopt the recommendations in the report.
It is, so.
I just stand it down.
Hold it, okay. We're holding that. TE 34.201, parking amendments, Beach Avenue, Ward 32. Still with you? This could be the recommendations in your letter that you might want to move.
Yep, and I'll move those. Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.202, all-way stop control, Beach Avenue and Cedar Avenue, Ward 32.
And I'll move those recommendations as well. Thank you.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T 34.203, all-way stop control, Columbine Avenue and Brookmount Road, Ward 32.
And keeping pedestrians and everyone safe on our roads, I'm moving those recommendations.
Okay. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That carries. Thank you. T 34.204, speed humps in 2nd East-West Laneway, south of Queen Street East and east of Boardwalk Drive. Boardwalk Drive, sorry. Ward 32.
And this is the fastest speed hump in the history of
Speediest hump in history?
Speed bump in the history of TYCC. Yes, I'll move the
Okay,
recommendations.
Thank you. All those
Yeah.
in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Oops. T 34.205, parking amendments, Eastwood Road between Bellhaven Road and Woodbine Avenue, Ward 32.
And I'm moving the recommendations in the letter. Thank you.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Can I move on to 206 and 207?
They're circular, yeah.
Yeah, they are, okay. So we are now at TE 34.206, amendments to pick up and drop off area for the Alexander Park Daycare, Ward 20.
To move the recommendations in my letter, thank you.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. TE 34.207, addressing road safety concerns near Wilkinson Junior Public School, Ward 29.
Oh, yes, I'll be moving the recommendations in my letter to make sure that we have our kids safe.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. Okay, so please prepare your motions in advance. We're heading back to the front of the agenda. And for the members of the public who are here to speak to a particular item, if you are interested in speaking, please let us know. We're going to register you and make sure your name is on the speakers list so you will not be missed. We are now proceeding to TE 34.1, naming of a public lane located west of Lansdowne Avenue, extending northernly from Whittalk Avenue, Ward 18. Any members of the public here to speak to this matter? Seeing none. Members with questions of staff? Seeing none. Councillors to speak? Councillor McMahon.
So this is my, sorry, I thought that we had laneways ahead of me. What lane is this? Sorry.
Sorry, we're on item number 1. Public lane naming west of Lansdowne, extending north
sorry,
of
this is
Whittalk.
Anna's. I'm like, these aren't my laneways. Okay, I'm Anna's Hat, and I'm adopting staff recommendations.
Okay,
A little
thank you.
chaotic over here being 2 people.
Thank you, Councillor. All those in favor?
Thank you.
Any opposed? Carried. T 34.2, naming of a public lane in block bounded by Harbord Street, Markham Street, Ulster Street, and Palmerston Boulevard, Ward 19. There is a registered speaker. I would like to call Enya Donald Greenland. Are you here? Welcome. Very nice to see you. Thank you very much for your patience. The clock is on your left-hand side. You'll have 5 minutes when you're ready.
I'm a resident of Ward 19. On March the 31st, I applied to Carrie Ferguson at Engineering and Construction Services to name a laneway after Dr. Lucy Touch, who is was a trailblazing young woman dentist who died sadly 10 years ago. On April the 4th, my letter was received by Carrie Ferguson, and exactly 3 months to the day after that, I am now before Toronto East York Community Council. This is a city of 2.9 million people the last time I checked, and the only way that something like this could get here so fast is because of people like Angela Surdy and Councillor Mike Layton, and because of Anna Michalak and Gerard Smith at Engineering and Construction Services, the board members at PARA, the Palmerston Area Residents Association, particularly Paul McLean, who allowed me to push through with my application to name a lane after a really remarkable woman, to Dr. Alice Kazmarowski, the sister and next of kin of Dr. Lucy Touch, for whom I wish the lane to be named. All of you people are absolutely stellar in this amazing city. I can be here that fast. Do whatever you want with my application. I will not object. I just want to say that I think that you are all absolutely stellar. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your kind remarks.
And that's what all the deputations are going to sound like, right? Thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other member of the public here to speak to this particular item? Seeing none. Any members within Community Council here to ask questions? No? Members to speak? Councillor Layton.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm pleased to adopt the staff recommendations in the report and thank the community, Ms. Greenland and others. I've actually run into, we will be seeing more of Miss Greenland as more of these applications for renaming come in. She is on a mission to recognize the important women of Toronto and of Ward 19 for their contributions to our community. And I run into her on the doorstep on more than one occasion where she's out collecting signatures of adjacent properties. So I do believe we'll see her more in the future, and thank her very much for her efforts.
Thank you very much. All those in favor of the recommendations in the report? No, we have quorum. If I can get the members to take a seat, we're just voting.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay. Thank you very much, members. All those, if I can just ask the staff to just stay out of the horseshoe for now, thank you. All those in favor, thank you. Any opposed, carried. I'm going to remind members that we need to maintain quorum. Quorum is held at 7. We've got 2 members who are unavailable to join us today. That's Councillor Bailão, Councillor Mihevc, which means that we're going to have to coordinate our washroom breaks even. So please just be patient. We've got a very large agenda. Thank you. And thank you to the Deputant for her remarks. T34.3, naming of a public lane located in the block bounded by Maplewood Avenue, Vaughan Road, Louise Avenue, and Kenwood Avenue, Ward 21. Any members of the public here to speak to this item? Okay. Seeing none. Members with questions of staff? Don't see any. Members to speak? Councillor Fragedakis.
So my instructions are to defer this indefinitely.
Okay. Do the clerks have the motion?
No, but item 3?
Yes.
So item 3, there is a motion to defer this item indefinitely. All those in favor?
Actually, you know what? Why don't we just I will double check with Councillor Mihevc's staff, just because you don't have the motion, so I'm just wondering if something was missed.
So why don't we hold that down for you, Councillor, and we'll come back to it. So item number 3 is now held down. Moving along. TE 34.4, naming of a public lane located south of Carlton Street, extending westernly from Parliament Street, then southerly to Dr. O Lane, Ward 28. Are there members of the public here to speak to this matter? Okay, seeing none. Members with questions to staff? Seeing none. Members to speak. Councillor Troisi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a very, very tiny laneway in Cabbagetown, and there's a lovely report from Mike Reed's brother in our information packages. So I'd like to move the recommendation in the report to name this small lane to Mike Reed. He was a long-standing and popular community member in Cabbagetown. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councillor. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you. Our next item is TE 34.5, naming of a public lane north of Danforth Avenue, extending between Logan Avenue and Ferrier Avenue, Ward 29.
So
and there are no members of the public here to speak?
Yes, so I'm just going to take 20 seconds. I'm going to move to adopt the recommendations in the report. And for any of you that have been to the Danforth and have ever eaten at Christina's, Antonios Mavrakakis used to be the owner of Christina's restaurant, who was a long-standing member of the Board of Management of the Greektown on the Danforth BIA, who passed away after an illness, and so this is on behalf of the Greektown on the Danforth BIA Board for his contributions to the community and to honor him in this small way.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you. T 34.6, naming of 4 public lanes in Ward 32. Are there members of the public here to speak to this matter? Seeing none. Are there members with questions of staff? Seeing none. Members to speak. Councillor McMahon.
Thank you very much. And this is one of the most exciting parts of our job is naming laneways. And although my goal was to name every laneway in wonderful Ward 32 before I left, that wasn't possible, unfortunately, but staff have worked. I just want to give a shout out to staff for all their great work. We have 8 laneways we're naming this morning. And I'll just go through quickly with a one-liner about each one. One is Luttrell Loop, which is over in Danforth Village area. And Mr. Luttrell worked for the Grand Trunk Railway, and he started the town of East Toronto back in the day. And this is the start of the laneway revitalization we're doing with Laneway Project in that area. And then there's Ice Masters Lane, and the Ice Masters have been running their outdoor skating rink at Fairmount Park for 60 years. And they're a phenomenal group of people. It's not the same people. They're next generations of people, and they do amazing work there. And they also mentor other people to build skating rinks in their parks. Then we have Suzanne Beard Lane, and Suzanne Beard was a lovely key beacher who volunteered everywhere, was on the BIA, and just was phenomenal with the Girl Guides and Brownies, and unfortunately she passed away suddenly in this spring. And the last one, I'm just going to put a picture up, but Lucia Perello is, I'll tell you in a minute. Sorry, Lucia Perello is a 104-year-old woman in our neighborhood who is still makes pizza for our street parties in the neighborhood, and she's a real icon. And this idea was brought to me by this chap, 11-year-old Remy Schmeichin, who had the idea that he wanted the laneway named after Lucia. And I just think that's a beautiful story with intergenerational fun and compassion in our neighborhood. So with that, I would move staff recommendations and like your support, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. T34.7, naming of 4 lanes south of Queen Street East, extending between Lutey Avenue and Glen Manor Drive, Ward 32.
And this was brought to us by Rory O'Shea. You know him to be a big media presence and Irish icon in the city. He has already named one laneway, Peggy Delaney Way, after his mom, who was the Grand Marshal in the St. Patrick's Day Parade and all things Irish in Toronto. And so he has Sandy Cove Lane, Stevens Green Way, the Liffey Lane, Bloomsday Way, and we have the Bloomsday Festival on the beach every year. So all things Irish down in the beach. And I'm moving staff recommendations.
Thank you very much, Councillor. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. T34.8, 2639 Dundas Street West zoning amendment application, final report. There are speakers. I would like to call Zivi Stanovic. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. You've got 5 minutes, and the clock will start when you're ready.
22 Brett Street. It's a building of 8 rental units, and I represent actually the concern of all my tenants. Most of them are living there over 5 to 10 years. The new proposed construction, which is twice the size that is permitted, is actually totally blocking my building for any fresh air, sunlight, and any reasonably privacy. As you can see on the screen, this is the side back from my property. And of course, it causes a lot of parking issues in the area. The zoning bylaw, as I was informed by the planning, is that the height, the permitted height is 14 meters, 1-4. The proposed is 27.55, which is 3.55 meters more. It is actually 44.4 feet more, meaning that the building that we are proposing is a double one. We actually want to do 2 buildings in a place that is, by law, should be only 1. Even claiming that the project is designed as a terracing and stepping in some areas doesn't eliminate the height of the building. And with all these negative effects, this is an unreasonable number of units for such a limited size. 22 Bread is only 1.5 meters from lot line. Elevations of my property are lower than the subject one. It means that the new project will totally block the building and all my tenants. And of course, the privacy, and you can see there are windows along all the walls. As for parking, my building and all other 10 family houses on the street, they don't have any parking in this area. And there's no attached parking. And all of them are using actually street parking on a small Bread Street, which is a very small alley, even not a street, I would say. And the proposed is 110 units, while 72 units are without parking. It means 65% are without parking, and only 6 visitors for 110 units. It's hardly enough even for 1 unit to entertain an event in one evening. 65% that are without parking, while 40% of them are studio units. The rest of them, 86%, are 1, 2, or 3 bedrooms, which intend to be for families. And intending and saying that they will not have cars, I don't believe so, because I don't think anyone can limit a unit buyer not to own a car all his life while he's living in this property. There is no public parking lot in any reasonable walking distance. The closest subway station is 1.1 kilometers from the property. In addition, I would say that the intersection of this area is very busy in rush hours. 110 units more will make it as a disaster. Just in summary, this concern is actually only because the proposed one is actually asking to be doubled the size. There is no problem to have a building that will follow the bylaw. I really hope that the city that protects rental, and this project is going to harm the rental properties, and this city will not allow constructing such a building. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your comments. Are there any questions for the speaker? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Our next speaker is Jim Baxter. Jim, are you here? Welcome, sir. Like the previous speaker, you'll have 5 minutes. The clock is on your left-hand side. I'll start it when you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. I think it's still morning. My wife and I moved to the Junction from the Annex to get away from the canyons 27 years ago. We fell in love with the architecture and history of the area. Indian Road, for an example, Indian Road Crescent, for an example, housed industrialists, professionals at the south end of the street, and block by block went down through the ranks of business and finally the ranks of the railroad as you walk north, with houses to match their income. It is a reflection of the town, a mix of industry and the all-important railroad and the people who made it work. Dundas West was the main street. Manufacturers had offices with factories and warehouses behind. Martin's Florists, for example, had their store and greenhouses in behind. There were butchers and greengrocers and clothiers, everything that made up this thriving, self-contained village. Rocket forward, we have gone through some tough times, but most of the streetscape has survived the test of time. In recent years, the Junction has become one of the hottest Toronto neighborhoods to be in. The developers have come circling, trying to get approved before the newly recognized HCD can get a foothold. Some of the problems are obvious, and they will be dealt with following speakers. In their haste, they failed to mention the schools are over capacity, the traffic is already gridlocked. But more importantly to our designated character area is that they do not consider or respect the history of our established neighborhood, which according to the province and the city, must be protected. They either choose to ignore the build form or too architecturally illiterate to recognize the essence of the period. This is not modernism. Sadly, Canadian schools of architecture only teach modernism. They do not understand that we have so they do not understand what we have, so they want to tear it down and replace it. Dundas West is a stretch of avenue on one of our regular walks where we can experience craftsmanship before they forgot how to build. Every walk reveals something new, some little detail. It is a study of proportions. You can look at any one of these century-old gems and they just look right. From the size of the mortar line to the ratio of glass to masonry or stone, they are comfortable and comforting to the eye in their relatively old age. Can we please defer until such time as the HCD study can be completed? A deferral until we can understand not just what this project in a vacuum will do to the neighborhood, but what all the proposed developments together, and there are 3 today, 2 here, one in Etobicoke, York, and yesterday there was an OMB hearing that started. Not to mention the 2 mega condo developments just north of High Park. So if we can put a hold or deferral so that we can study all of these together and what they're going to do to our neighborhood. This would be responsible planning and forward thinking. And to complicate everything, our section of the ward is being transferred to across Etobicoke, so that I hope with the next election. So I hope, Gord, as your parting gift to us, please support the West Bend, the Historical Conservation District, so we can maintain our character. Please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there members with questions for the speaker? Councillor Perks.
Just, hey, Jim, did you know at the last council meeting, we actually got the new ward that you'll be part of in the Toronto East York Community Council.
That's great.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you're not going to be part of it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other members with questions? No? Okay. Our next speaker is Tina Leslie, the Junction Heritage Conservation District. Welcome. Okay, you'll have 5 minutes. I'll start your clock now.
Thank you. Oops. Oh, you can't see that. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to share details about the Junction HCD and concerns about the proposed redevelopment of the active Green and Ross property at 2639 Dundas Street West that will have a significant impact on our ability to achieve our Heritage District vision. As chair of the Junction HCD Board, it is my privilege to share objections from our dedicated volunteers and community supporters and urge you to deny the applicant approval to proceed. Why do we need to repeat errors from lessons learned in other areas of the city? Every one of your communities is facing the same intensification pressures along with the stresses that are being placed on the neighborhoods and the residents. We only need to look at the experience of our first mid-rise building. It's here. It's a gray box on your series of colored maps. The Duke condo at 7 stories was part of the 2015 evaluation of the mid-rise built form that reinforced the need to reduce building heights on 20-meter roads. And recommended changes were approved by Council in 2016. Any exception invalidates Council's intent to mitigate the unintended consequences from reoccurring on the smallest 20-meter avenue road widths. Incidentally, the Duke also has a single commercial shop on the main street, which is not in keeping with the fine-grained retail fabric of our historic streetscape. And the one shop is an LCBO, which is ironic considering the 93 years of alcohol prohibition in the Junction that was repealed in 1997. We hope you've had an opportunity to read our letter and peruse the maps which illustrate the black holes in our contiguous streetscape fabric that are being contemplated by several multi-property proposals. We have in your notes. At this moment, we are facing a tsunami of applications, essentially seeking to preempt our Phase 1 heritage study, and the cumulative effect of these redevelopment projects scattered throughout our impending heritage district is catastrophic, if implemented as proposed. Any one of these projects establishes an incompatible precedent for other applications, and each has the potential to undermine the character and value of the junction as a heritage district. Our letter and analysis also highlights issues with other mid-rise performance standards that were ignored. This is what the building looks like. This new building has an undercut Main Street floor and then an overhanging sheer 4-story street wall before stepping back at the 5th story, which does not follow our typical Dundas streetscape patterns and ignores the appropriate heritage cornice lines. We are doing our part to ensure that the provincial policy statement, growth plan, city's official plan and policies, the mid-rise performance standards are being applied consistently and equitably. We need staff and council members to also ensure that all development applications are held accountable to these same exemplary standards as they have been published and approved. We hope you will deny the applicant approval to proceed with the redevelopment proposal until it complies with the 6-story height maximum and other invaluable performance standards. While we appreciate the architect's use of brick and a reasonable brick-to-window glass ratio, it is a building that could exist on any avenue in Toronto and does not contribute to the prevailing character in the junction. This development project is neither an exception nor exceptional and should not be granted special consideration to exceed the mid-rise height limit of 16 meters. We understand the need for growth and intensification, but we are sure the intent of those policies was not to be implemented at the expense of heritage character value. The curse of undisciplined growth is well known. It was more than 2 decades ago that a PepsiCo Inc. CEO warned that, quote, "Growth for its own sake is the logic of a cancer cell."
Thank you very much. Are there any members of from the committee who have questions for the speaker? You may get a chance to speak again. Seeing none, thank you very much. I'd like to call Diana Fancher, West Toronto Junction Historical Society, to speak. Welcome, Diana. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. I'm here today substituting for Chris Sears, the president of the West Toronto Junction Historical Society, who's on his way to Tokyo. And also to remind you that this proposed development in the northern outcrop of Ward 14, as you've heard, is part of historic West Toronto Junction. And in fact, the oldest and most historic site in the junction is actually sited at this particular intersection. The Peacock Tavern, where William Lyon Mackenzie robbed the mail during the rebellion of 1837, at that time stood at the northeast side of Dundas at the Bend. Old Weston Road was created in 1840, and after the railways went through, the Peacock moved to the southwest side of the intersection, burned down once, and was rebuilt in the 1890s. This site is the remnant of the backyard of the 1890s incarnation of the Peacock after the reconfiguration of the intersection. The hotel building stood where the traffic island Parquet is in the center of the intersection now. For many years, there was also an ancient structure, possibly the remnant of a Weston Road toll booth or a Peacock outbuilding between this site and the Cash Money building to the north. Just because the city erased the building to reconfigure the intersection doesn't make it any less a part of our heritage area. Unfortunately, city planning didn't consult us or the historic record before positioning this site as a space between two character areas. An oversight we now have the opportunity to correct before this development goes any further. I'll just skip over the material that Tina has already presented and say that the architectural resolution of this proposal is one of the worst designs we've seen in the junction. The front facade alone is sufficient reason to reject the proposal. We stand with the Junction Heritage District in opposing this development as not suitable for the site. We urge the Community Council to reject the planner's recommendation to include this site in the West Toronto Junction character area and to defer this proposal to allow the community to sit down with the Ward 13 councillor and the developer to make this a better project that we can all live with. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Diana. Are there any questions for the speaker? Seeing none, thank you. I'd like to call Don Bowie. Don, welcome. You'll have 5 minutes as well. The clock is on your left-hand side.
Hi there. My name is Dawn Buey, and I've been a resident of the Junction since about 2009. And in that time period, I moved to the area because it was affordable for me at that time. It no longer is affordable, but there was definitely a spirit there. As previous people have said, the buildings have been coherent, left intact, because it was economically depressed for many years. And strangely enough, this happens in Toronto a lot, that we get inadvertent preservation of beautiful old buildings, which Jane Jacobs said all of us need to have lively cities. When they're preserved, people can actually afford those spaces and afford the storefronts, afford the apartments, some of which amazingly are still intact. I have neighbors who pay $600 a month for a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment, which is unheard of in the city. But these apartments, which are about 3 stories high, actually line Dundas West, right across the street from the Duke. In fact, there are 3-story buildings where people are still paying this affordable rent. The landlords in those buildings are getting near to death or to selling potentially. So the whole neighborhood is basically getting ready to roll over. We're in this period where we might lose all of this really strong infrastructure. I know my neighbors since 2009. I've been very involved in different projects in the neighborhood, trying to get the Junction Commons happening, an actual community center. Didn't happen, but there's been a lot of connections that have been built around the redesign of Watkinson Parkette, reaching out to people who live in affordable housing or I guess you'd call it marginal housing, also on Dundas West in the same area. And I've known some of those people, and they use Watkinson Parkette. They use the streetscapes here. And they are also feeling the pressure of gentrification. They are feeling that they were being pushed out of this area. So this whole area, we need to slow down. That's what we're asking for today. The Junction Historical District has done an awesome job of identifying issues around height, around cohesive design elements that need to be retained in this area to keep the character on the street. But I think the neighborhood in general needs a plan to allow for all different kinds of income levels, rental housing. It's in sore need of a plan. We know that Gord Perks, it will be leaving us. We're going to be a different, more cohesive riding, a new ward that is going to be united. So I think if we could just put this on hold, Gord Perks, that would be awesome, because the next person who will be taking over from you for this riding, we can actually have time to build a plan with that incoming councillor And I just wanted to show you again this map where you can see it's only the bottom, like my neighborhood is right up here, but there are a lot of little strands as well of streets. This is DuPont, sorry, that's Annette. And this is Old Weston Road. This is an intersection as well. Sorry, I'm trying to hit all these points really quickly. That different people in the West Bend a couple of years ago, in conjunction with U of T engineering students, took it upon themselves to try to redesign this intersection so that it could make sense. And I believe at a meeting for one of these reviews of one of these structures, Gord Perks, a couple of months ago, I was asking about when we'd be seeing a staff report about that redesign of this intersection, and you said it would be a couple months, and we haven't seen it yet. I think it's really important for us to wait until we have that report. If we're going to be redesigning this intersection, that will also affect where these condos are going to be sitting. There's a lot of issues up in the air that really need to be settled before we proceed. So I hope I've hit all my points. Any questions?
Thank you very much. I will ask that question as well. Are there any questions for the speaker?
Thank you.
Seeing none, thank you very much for your deputation.
Thank you.
I'd like to call Ken Charat to speak. Ken, are you here? Welcome, Ken. Following Ken is Viola Varga, and I don't have any other speakers after Viola. Are there any other members of the public who are here to speak to this particular item? We're on item number 8. If so, please see the clerk and we'll have you signed up. Ken, please proceed. You've got 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. My name's Ken Sherrod. I'm at 31 Indian Road Crescent, which is about 5 or 6 blocks from this site. I'm recommending deferral of this project as some of the other speakers, all of the other speakers have suggested, mostly for the same sorts of reasons. I'm particularly concerned about this 4-story street wall that hangs above the sidewalk. The setback is an interesting one. The sidewalks in this area need to be wider because there will be a lot of traffic. There is a subway station, as someone pointed out, a kilometer away, but also lots of other transportation infrastructure there as well. So I think that part of it's fine, but the overhang of the sidewalk for 4 stories going straight up is not consistent with the area, and I'm quite certain it wouldn't be consistent with the outcome of the Heritage Conservation District study that is long overdue in this area. The building's also 8 stories, which I think again is too high in view of the comments that you've already heard and for the reasons you've already heard. I think 6 stories is much more appropriate, and it's the height of the buildings just further south on Dundas, including a new condo that was built at Glenlake just a few years ago. In a more general sense, the project is part of the eastern gateway to the junction. The junction is a rapidly revitalizing area, and this area, as has been pointed out, is included in the Phase 1 study for the Junction Heritage Conservation District. It's already approved by Council. As far as the junction is concerned, over the past few years, the city has invested a lot of money in the junction, in the infrastructure, and they've done a great job. If you go through the junction now, it's a different junction that used to be there 20 years ago. I've been there a little longer than that. Currently, it's not quite to the junction that was there when I first moved in, but it's headed in the right direction. The area is responding very well, but my concern is, as has been pointed out, this is one of 5 projects that are currently in the works, and my concern is that that's going to basically cloud the future of the area. I mean, who can say what's going to happen when you put 5 new projects in an 8-block area, in an area that you're hoping will become a historic district, and an area that's really taking off. The other problem is that there seems to be no consensus on what the character of this area should be. We've had a couple of public meetings when we had very lively discussions, but what's lacking is some consensus on what this area should look like as it's rebuilt. And there are other proposals coming up, including one later on the agenda that's very close by that came in. And it raises all sorts of issues of what are we trying to do here. And my concern is that we've got the cart before the horse. We need to get that study done as fast as possible. We're probably the only area in the city, in this area, that hasn't had a study. I participated in the Avenue study for Bloor and Dundas a few years ago. Gord coordinated that. I thought it was a pretty good study. We got some guidelines, and so far everything's looking pretty good in that area. There are currently studies going on further west on Bloor. So what we essentially need is the same thing here in order to make sense out of all this development. We need, I believe, to step back a little bit. You know, we get caught up in the sound and fury of this process. I think we need to step back and take a broader look. Look out a few years and say, what do we want to have happen here? Rather than just taking a look at the 5 projects that we have in front of us. We need some time. We need to defer this. We need some time to get the planning study underway to provide a context. I've lived in the area for 48 years. It's a great place to live. I hope I don't roll over too soon, as one of the other speakers was suggesting. I hope I'm not in that category.
Thank you very much.
But I'd like to be here.
Thank you very much, Ken, for your remarks. Are there any questions for the speaker? Okay, seeing none, thank you. I'd like to call our next speaker, Viola Varga. Viola, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
Yes, I just want to tell council that there's a whole bunch of letters from people, and the thing is with the junction is that we've found this gem. You know, it was kind of, this area went to seed, and for 20 years we had the art festival, and we spent a lot of money cleaning this area up. And there was even an article in New York telling about this place. And intensification is not the only priority in the provincial policies. There's tourism, and here we have a unique situation. It is most likely in Toronto an area where we have heritage buildings that are consecutive, the most consecutive heritage buildings. And people are coming now, flocking here in the evenings and in weekends. I call them tourists, but these are probably people from Toronto wanting to get away from this intense city, this is like a village atmosphere. It's beautiful, and this, one of the requirements that the province requires of Toronto is to be a gateway for tourism for the rest of Ontario. Meaning that when people come to the junction and they get a feel of what Ontario, what Canada used to be, they will want to go visit the rest of Ontario. So if we make this just about intensification, just for the sake of intensification, I think we miss the mark, which is a very interesting spot that people are coming to, and this is why we need the Heritage Conservation District to put a higher level of preservation, because these buildings, they're way too big. They dwarf what is a 2, 3, 4 story, maximum 4-story street. And the land is now becoming, because of this, the land is more valuable than the heritage. And the buildings alone are, only a few of them have a designation. And only as a collection of buildings, this area, because they're so dense, one consecutively beside each other, only as a collection of buildings is this worth. And the land is now more worth than the history. If you allow 8 stories, these properties are not valuable anymore. And therefore, the Heritage Conservation District, because what will happen is these developers are going to tear them down and want to build 8 stories. And we have already a few proposals. This one on the Pacific northeast corner, and we just have to go to Etobicoke Council to talk about the one on the Pacific Northwest Council. It's this building that is going to be approved at Etobicoke and is going to be demolished does not fit into the neighborhood whatsoever. It is, even the former Rob Ford said it was an eyesore. They made no effort, no effort to, in a very important intersection. And here too, this building is so, I didn't know what it, I didn't even see it as a building. I thought it was a bridge or something. I think he's trying to copy the highway or something, the wall across from it. This is not the junction. We have to make an effort here because just as we have just found this place, we will lose it, and history is very vulnerable. This is not something. This is what we have to make a huge effort to protect. If we don't make this effort, what we have just found will be gone shortly. I mean, I don't know what more to say. This is not your regular intensification program that you are enacting all across, but even in areas where you're intensifying.
Thank you very much for your remarks.
All right, thank you.
Are there any questions for the speaker? Seeing none, thank you very much. Any other members of the public here to speak to this matter? Item number 8. Seeing none. Are there members with questions of staff? No? Councillor, and members to speak. Councillor Perks.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to be moving to approve the staff recommendations, which essentially authorize the city to approve this development application. If I could just get this put up. So what's currently on site there is a 1-story Green and Ross parking garage or auto repair garage. It's my very strong view that replacing that with a quite well-designed mid-rise condominium building actually enhances the character of the area. We went through a lengthy conversation in the community looking at the impact of the proposal here on the possibility of having the heritage character affected. Unfortunately, this is one of those instances where city staff were unable to implement the heritage study in advance of planning applications coming in. We've had an absolutely wretched 8 years in terms of being able to adequately staff our heritage department and our planning department. It's a fight every year just to keep the staffing levels where they are. We've been able to get, I think it's, Mary, remind me, 2 new heritage planners? 2 new heritage planners, despite the fact that we're undergoing the largest building boom in the city's history. I wish we could have had a full study in place before this one was considered, but if I take the community's advice and defer the study, given that we're not meeting again as a community council for a business meeting until January, this will go to the Ontario Municipal Board, the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal. They will look at it. They will say there is no heritage study in place, and they will approve this. Rather than give the community a false hope, I'm going to be recommending that we do it here. There was a comment made about the intersection being changed here. Just as a note to the community, when we were considering the Vision Zero plan at Council just last week, somewhere after 10 o'clock p.m. My colleagues here helped me to get direction to city staff to put a request in for the 2019 budget to maybe do the complete reorganization of that intersection there. So I'm afraid that looking on the planning rules as they are in place, the right thing to do is to look at this and then look at the application in front of us. And I just have to say the application in front of us is an improvement on that. So I encourage you all to support the application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Any other members to speak? Okay. No. And the councillor has moved the recommendations of the staff report. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you. Moving along, T 34.9, Dundas Street West and Roncesvalles Avenue, build form study, official plan amendment. This is a final report. We have registered speakers, Johnny Vella, followed by Gary Kirk. Any other members of the public here to speak, please let us know. Johnny Vella, calling you first. Welcome. And you'll have 5 minutes. The clock is on your left-hand side.
Thank you. My name is John Vella, and I'm here specifically to address the properties at 246 and 244 Roncesvalles Avenue in Ward 14. Both the focus area and the potential pedestrian community improvement area are designated on Map E of the survey study. If I can pull that up here. Not sure how that works. Right there. Both my properties, member of the council, 244 and 246, are dead center of that study area, perhaps one of the busiest areas along the Roncesvalles Avenue study. Both buildings combined provide rental housing for approximately 90 residents, elderly families, and young professionals. I am here representing all tenants today because they have all voiced their concern. If I include the Achilles building on the east side of Roncesvalles, then there are approximately 400 residents in total. Under the section Boulevard Spaces, there is a concern raised regarding sections of High Park Boulevard and Fermanagh Avenue that have been fenced off on city property. In 2014, after numerous complaints by the tenants of vandalism, intrusion, and invasion of privacy, I fenced off our properties with the permission of the Licensing Standards Office. And the reason for fencing off the properties was to ensure that the residents of both buildings can enjoy peace and quiet enjoyment. Because for the longest time, tenants who have lived, especially on the ground floor, were having their privacy invaded. My question today is, why is the study not addressing and safeguarding the issue of privacy, peace, and quiet enjoyment that these residents are entitled to? Furthermore, what will it do to ensure that this matter is not pushed to the side? And I am respectfully asking that this particular section of the study be further extended and not finalized to ensure that all concerns of all residents be properly addressed. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your remarks. Are there any questions for the speaker?
Sorry, can you just give me the specific address?
244 and 246 Roncesvalles Avenue.
And 246, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Our next speaker is Gary Kirk. Gary, welcome. The clock is on your left-hand side here on the wall, and I'll start it when you're ready to speak. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Gary Kirk, and I'm the owner of a Good Read bookstore at 341 Roncesvalles Avenue. I would like to speak to one specific component of the planning proposal, and that is the build form proposed for the Roncesvalles Main Street section. I believe it's on page 32 of the proposal. And basically what has been proposed that above 3 floors there's a setback of a minimum of 5.5 meters per floor and a 30-degree angle. This is a highly impractical build form. The net effect of it is to put any development out of the reach of single building owners, and to mean that any meaningful development would happen through consolidation and development of the properties into condos. I've found this process extremely frustrating. I think it's a bit intellectually dishonest in the sense that the setbacks that were introduced at the 4th floor that we were zoned for, we were supposedly compensated by the provision of a potential 5th floor, but the reality is that 5th floor would be about 8 meters long, and given the expense, no one is going to build it, at least not unless it's part of a consolidated development project. In reaching out to building owners, I have yet to encounter one who is happy with this proposal. What I have found is a shocking number of them are not even aware of the proposal. I've been reaching out to people and have found language obstacles have been significant. A number of the building owners are elderly and of Polish descent and really have no idea this is happening to the buildings that they've been paying taxes on for years. We, as a group, are not opposed to reasonable and practical build forms. If you look at the build form proposed for basically every other section, which has a single setback above the 3rd floor, this allows the stacking of stairwells. This means that 30% of the building isn't being used for stairways and hallways. We would be amenable to that, even a slightly larger setback at the front. But, you know, what's being proposed here is highly impractical. So basically, I would just say to you that looking at the proposal, you should ask yourselves, does this make the creation of more affordable rental units by existing building owners more or less likely? Does this make consolidation into condo projects more or less likely? Does it seem fair or reasonable to take away a development potential that people have been taxed on for max best use for decades without them even being aware of it, and with this facade of a potential 5th story as compensation? So I sent you all a letter from a number of building owners. I have the original here. With your permission, I'll just leave that with you.
If you can just, the clerk will take that from you, yeah. And Gary, have you concluded your remarks?
I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the speaker? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much, Gary. Is there any other member of the public here to speak to this matter? Okay, seeing none, we'll just bring this into Community Council. Any members with questions for staff?
I'm not sure if there's someone here who can handle, but the first deputant, the issue of the boulevards, all we're approving here is, in terms of that, is a paragraph that says we should look at someday making these boulevards more attractive. We're not actually imposing a change and taking down any fences at this point. Is that?
That is correct.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that one point. That's all my questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Perks. Anyone to speak? Councillor Perks?
Yeah, so this is a big, healthy report. It does stuff for heritage. It does remarkable new things for urban design and streetscape. I can't think of an avenue study that has been, well, that is as fine-grained in terms of what the look and feel of a street will be. And I just want to really compliment the urban design staff. Joseph, come on, wave your hands around. Good job. And the planning staff. I think I wore out 4 planners on this study. Joanna, you're the 4th one on this? Yeah. This and the heritage staff, of course, have been great too. We had freezing cold walks in the rain. James was there. Public meetings with 300 and 400 people attending. And you know that when you have multiple public meetings with hundreds of people attending, and then you get to the end and you have 2 deputants, one of whom was just satisfied already, You know that the staff have been diligent in dealing with questions and concerns and comments. The fact that we don't have 300 people here to make deputations about how they got it wrong is actually the loudest voice you can imagine. It's not a quiet community, the Roncesvalles community. So congratulations on a unique and groundbreaking study that I think will set a higher bar for how we do avenue studies and heritage conservation studies in the future. Thank you very much. And with that, I ask you all to support the recommendations.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor, and congratulations to you and the community. Is there anyone else here to speak? Okay, then all those in favor of the recommendations in the staff report? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you. T34.10, Alexander Park and Atkinson Housing Cooperative Revitalization, 571 Dundas Street West, 91 Augusta Avenue, and 7375 Augusta Square. Official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, draft plan of subdivision amendment, Phase 2A, sites 1, 2, and 3, final report. There are 2 registered speakers. I'd like to call Andrew Goodyear, Senior Development Director, Toronto Community Housing Corporation. Andrew, welcome.
Good morning. My name is Andrew Goodyear. I am a Senior Development Director at Toronto Community Housing. I am here with my Chief Development Officer, Vincent Tong, our Planning Consultant, Cindy Rottenberg-Walker, and several other members of our team, should they be required to assist with any questions. I'm here today to support the report prepared by City Planning staff, specifically the recommendation to approve the rezoning and official plan amendment for sites 1, 2, and 3 in Phase 2 of Alexander Park. For the past 8 years, Toronto Community Housing has been working collaboratively with the Atkinson Cooperative, who is the resident-led co-op that manages the Alexander Park site, co-op residents, various community agencies, the ward councillor, City of Toronto staff, and our developer partner Tridel to realize an improved Alexander Park. Sites 1, 2, and 3, located in the northwestern portion of the community, will be the first sites developed as part of the second phase of the revitalization. Our revitalization projects are extremely important as they offer significant benefits not only to Toronto Community Housing, our residents, but to the City of Toronto as a whole. These benefits include the ability to generate revenue to repair or rebuild our rental housing stock, the elimination of deferred maintenance backlogs, improved community design and safety, and community economic development initiatives. Alexander Park is truly a showcase of these benefits. Once complete, the 2-phased Alexander Park revitalization will create a mixed tenure community that includes 410 new rent geared to income units, 396 refurbished units, and more than 1,700 new market condominium units. And it is the construction of the market condominiums that funds the on-site replacement and refurbishment of TCHC rental units. Construction of Phase 1 is nearing completion. In 2016 and 17, 40 households moved into new rental townhouses, and the first group of market residents moved into the first condo building, SQ. The remainder of Phase 1, including 21 townhouses in the second condo building, are currently under construction and will be occupied in 2019. But as you all may know, revitalization goes far beyond bricks and mortar. Through TCHC's partnership with Tridel, over 40 job placements and 15 job shadowing placements have been provided to Alexander Park residents. In addition, 23 scholarships have been awarded to residents, and 10 TCHC and co-op households purchased market units in the Phase 1 condominiums with financial assistance from the Affordable Housing Office programs. The application before you today captures the first sub-phase of Phase 2. It includes a 12-story market condominium, a 14-story TCH Atkinson Co-op rental building, and 6 TCHC Atkinson Co-op townhouses. Applications related to the remainder of Phase 2 are currently under review by City Planning and will be brought forward to Council in the future. Since the approval of the original master plan in 2013, there's been extensive consultation carried out with the Alexander Park community. We meet with our working group monthly, and we have meetings with the whole community several times throughout the year. And one of the most significant changes that they've requested is the full replacement of one of our buildings at 73 Augusta. This is a co-op building that the community would really like to see replaced rather than refurbished, which is what was initially planned due to the building's age and the condition of the building. It's really not in very great shape, and it's not really that financially feasible to actually redo the entire building. Refurbishments of a building are extensive, and don't necessarily provide long-term benefits. An increase in market density throughout Phase 2 will finance its replacement. We believe that through these amendments, the community's vision will be realized. This outcome has not been achieved in isolation. There have been many contributors, and we really wish to thank City of Toronto staff and elected officials who've worked very hard with us to come up with a plan that they support and that our residents support. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Are there any questions for the speaker? Seeing none, thank you. I'd like to call Charlotte Cotto. Welcome, Charlotte. Are there any other members of the public here to speak to this matter? Okay, please take a seat at the front of the room, and I will start your clock 5 minutes when you're ready.
It's Charlene.
Charlene, oh, I'm sorry, Charlene. Thank you very much, Charlene Cotto.
Oh, boy. Hold on one sec. Okay. So my name is Charlene Cottle, C-O-T-T-L-E, and I am a resident of the Atkinson Housing Cooperative, well, Inc. So it is an incorporation that has been incorporated going back to 1996. Apparently, this housing cooperative was also a housing cooperative, but we worked very hard in order for this housing cooperative that was under the umbrella of the Ontario government to become a cooperative. And with the help of Mr. Jack Layton, we ended up doing what was right for the community at this time in order to prevent such a thing as what is happening right now with for example, with the TCHC in collusion with the City Council and with developers as Tridel. I think it's imperative that citizens and people who are living in our community are aware, and I do not believe that people are aware of the importance of what it is to have a housing cooperative as opposed to housing, which is rental housing, where you have an agency such as the TCHC that can come into your home at any time, just don't care about the people, just don't care about anything because they know that they can do and bring such an application, such a forward application, I would have to say, a perverted application before City Council, and everybody lick it up as though it's milk and honey. And it isn't. This is a theft. We made...
Ms. Cotto, I'm just going to hold your time for a second. If I can just ask you to speak directly to the application, and then to also refrain from perhaps making statements that are... if I can just ask you to speak directly to the application.
Well, I am speaking about the application because this is not you see, you would like me to forward this in an improper. So right now I am saying that it is an improper application that is before City Council, and I have been speaking about this under the umbrella of Olivia Chow. She's no more here. And then you had Adam Vaughan. And now you have Joe Cressy, who instead of sitting with the community, which is the Co-op Housing Community Cooperative, Inc., he is sitting with something called the Atkinson Housing Coop. It is a totally different application. And then you have this application that is brought forward for the longest while by, by perverted conduct. And
Ms. Cotto, I'm going to ask you to, I'm holding your time once again. If I can, I'm going to ask
you. Allow me to speak for 5 minutes. Why are you interrupting me?
I am giving you your time. Your time has been held. The only thing I'm going to ask you to do is try to refrain from speaking and using a language that's unparliamentary. We want to be able to use language in this chamber that's worthy of the chamber. So please continue.
So if I was supposed to look at this application, because Gordon Perk, in the last 5 years when I came here, it is at the same thing. All I have been able to get is frustration. Why is a municipal body that is supposed to represent its citizens and its people, why is there so much, like vomit inside on the table? Why? It shouldn't be. You listen to what it is at least. And I am saying that this application that came forward, it has now changed because we were under the umbrella of a planning that was under 438.86. Today, you have a total different planning. So you came on the board here. You were on top of. You were on sitting over there the last time I came here. You know who I am. All of you all know who I am. Your father did good, but then you came and said, "Oh, the application. Oh, no problem." But you are making decision on a legal entity, cooperative, in the city of Toronto, and making a decision on a housing cooperative, which is an entity in itself, which was a totally sustainable acquired development with 410 units. And today, I heard Mr. Goodyear mention about 60 of those units only. No, it is almost 110. It's almost 100 units that have been destroyed.
Thank you very much for your comments. Are there any questions for the speaker? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Are there any other members of the public here to speak to this item? Seeing none, we'll bring this into Community Council. Are there any questions of staff? Councillor Cressy.
Thank you. So to city planning staff, so the overall rezoning for the entire Alexander Park neighborhood was endorsed in 2012, is that correct?
In 2012 and 2013, yes.
Okay. Now, phase 2, which is what we're now approaching, as part of the build-up to a submission looking towards changes in phase 2, what was some of the feedback that was heard from the community and changes they would like to see that we're starting to see incorporated into the next phases?
Through the chair, some of the changes to phase 2 include larger park space, different layout for the park space to make it more usable, a new daycare facility, relocating existing daycare facility, a new location for the community center, which is being built on site, proposed adjacent to the park, additional floor space for both Toronto Community Housing and the market buildings, new social enterprise space, new public streets, public spaces, services, and public space improvements generally, all characterize phase 2.
And the principle that started this process from the get-go, which was one of zero displacement, which is during revitalization, any resident would not have to leave, that they would be able to remain in the community during the construction period. Is zero displacement that core principle being held as part of phase 2?
Yes.
Okay. And what's in front of us today, specifically this report, there is phase 2 north of Paul Lane Gardens, and then phase 2A in the northwest quadrant at Dundas and Denison. This report in front of us deals specifically with phase 2A as opposed to broader phase 2. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Anyone else with questions of staff? Seeing none, members to speak. Councillor Cressy.
Well, thank you. I'll begin by placing an amendment and the amendment is specifically related to childcare. There will be, as part of Phase 2, childcare. That's already in the, sorry, can this amendment be placed, please? Sorry, just one. I'll speak to it as they're placing it. This is specifically, childcare is part of Phase 2 as a whole. The final report in front of us notes that childcare would be in Phase 2A. The work that we'd been undertaking was for the childcare to be replaced within the new community center or adjacent. And so with this amendment, it is to ensure that we don't confirm at this point the exact location, but rather leave it open for that work to continue. Let me say a few words on the neighborhood of Alexandra Park and this. And first, I want to express my deepest thanks to the community, because one of the strengths that I've come to learn and appreciate about Alexandra Park is that it is a neighborhood that very much is in charge of its own destiny, in that it drives change and community building in the neighborhood, and revitalization has been part of that ongoing community ownership and control. And so our monthly working group that oversees the revitalization, the Residents Association, the Co-op Board, the hundreds and hundreds of residents who participate in near monthly meetings, a tremendous thank you to all of them, along with our development partners in Toronto Community Housing and our city staff. Revitalizations, and we have many. There's Regent Park, there's Lawrence Heights, they're fundamentally about people. Revitalizations are fundamentally not about buildings, but actually about people, and ensuring that we have livable, sustainable, and equitable neighborhoods for people. Alexandra Park was the neighborhood as we see it now, with the fencing and the bricks, was built in 1968. But Alexandra Park existed long before that. In fact, it was the creation of the neighborhood we know now which actually put up the walls at a time, like with Regent Park, that we thought we should wall in as opposed to open up communities. And so this process of revitalization, just as it's about rebuilding social and community infrastructure like childcare facilities and community centers and parks, and rebuilding homes and new units, it's fundamentally about establishing a truly mixed and complete community. Now, in 2012, when City Council endorsed the overall rezoning and master plan, it was the result in 2012 of 4 years of work, led at that point by the community and my predecessor, Councillor Vaughan. As we proceeded to Phase 2, one thing I want to commend TCHC on doing, the process of selecting the development partner for Phase 2 went through an open process whereby the community themselves had the chance to decide. We had a short list of candidates come forward, of development partners, to present to the neighborhood. And the neighborhood had an in-camera voting session as part of the criteria to decide who their development partner would be. And Tridel was selected, in part because of the strong work in Phase 1, and also in part because of the strong trust they'd built in the neighborhood. And as we approached Phase 2, one of the things we spent 2 years doing working with the neighborhood is what needs to be improved as part of Phase 2. What, based on the lessons of Phase 1, can be enhanced? And so what Phase 2, the changes we're seeing, is the community center is being moved from at the base of a condo into a standalone building embedded in the new park that's coming, so that it has the opportunity to center the neighborhood, both for market and RGI and co-op residents, but also to the opportunity to be larger. 73 Augusta, this is a 40-year-old building that had planned to be refurbished. It's now going to be completely rebuilt so that we have a better and stronger building going forward. There will be more affordable housing, better townhouse designs, improved park space, all with zero displacement at its core. And so that's what this is about. I would close just by saying that for me, on a very personal level, we have in Ward 20 a tremendous number of neighborhoods that I feel deeply connected to. But in my 4 years here, there is none more than Alexandra Park that I have come to admire and feel a profound sense of duty to. This is a neighborhood that has stood the test of time as a strong neighborhood for a century, and revitalization is fundamentally about ensuring that for the next century, that neighborhood remains as sustainable and vibrant and supported as possible. And I'm proud to move the amendment and the staff recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Anyone else to speak? Councillor Troisi.
Will I be able to
No, I'm sorry, ma'am, that's not the way it works. Councillor Troisi.
I'd just like to echo what Councillor Cressy said. I've worked in Alexandra Park for many years and worked with Kevin Lee in particular, and I know revitalization of that area was needed 20 years ago. So it's really nice to see that that part of the community is being revitalized and have more parkland and rec centers and more affordable housing, et cetera. So good on you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we have the motion before us. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Item as amended. Any opposed? That carries. Thank you very much. Our next item is TE 34.11, 440, 444, 450, and 464 Front Street West, 425, 439, 441, and 443 Wellington Street West, 6-18 Spadina Avenue, and 1 and 19 Draper Street, subdivision application final report. We have two registered speakers, Hamish Wilson, followed by Melissa Bruzzese. If I can just ask anyone else who's interested in speaking to this matter, please let us know, and we'll put you on the speakers list. Hamish, proceed. You've got 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Yes, good morning. Thank you. I'm sure there's been a lot of work. It's probably a very good thing that's being worked on, and yet I really have some issues with it because I fear that we're locking into place a building of our transit options shut again. And it's not going to be your fault, and it's not the planner's fault. It's just an overload situation like the rest of the city core, unfortunately. And we really need to get into a point where we have transit first and foremost, robust transit first and foremost, the east-west, because that's what's really needed. Queen Street Subway, 1949, approved by voters. Most importantly, for the sake of this one, is the 1985 version of the downtown relief line, which I guess maybe we call it downtown or relief west now, and what we're talking about is maybe a third, maybe in a decade, or a fifth or sixth of it in a decade or now. This is a stretch that I think is really sorely needed and has been for a while. The Front and Spadina thing that we're talking about is a really important linkage, so we need to make sure that we have this space for future options. Queen Street Subway is too far north. I like the King Street option that the TDC has liked about 10 years ago or 8 years ago. But still have a hope that Front Street is an option because we need triage of their system. We're getting to the point where everything is so overloaded. If we can't do a development freeze, we've got to think about what can we do quickly. That includes a certain amount of flexibility, in my view, to do a one-way reversible transit way. I don't care if it's buses or an LRT. Again, using that Front Street alignment somehow. We had an easier crossing of the rail tracks that unfortunately, again, we just slipped through the cracks. Now we've got all these buildings that are encumbering it. So it's very hard to do good transit when you're always, and it's not your fault, I don't think, but we're just always letting these opportunities go past. We need robust east-west transit from the pinch point. Everybody that comes in from further out here goes through this pinch point at the base of High Park. And here we have something that was modeled out on the West Waterfront LRTEA of a quick route in. If we did a reversible transit way on this alignment, which again goes past the Front Spadina of this particular thing, then that would really make a difference to easing all the problems of King, Queen, Gardiner, Lakeshore, etc. That is what we're tending to need. So we need to make sure that there's space on Front Street for robust transit, one way or the other, please. So go ahead and do what you need to do with this, but make sure that you push back the front on the front of the building to give that extra width on Front Street. There's also, I've heard, a chance of a Metrolinx promotion of a mobility hub transit transfer station at Front and Spadina, I believe, which in this 1992 West Waterfront LRTEA was also saying it was going to be prohibitively expensive and probably not worth doing. But if that's where we're going because we've built all these options shut, then we should actually make sure that we keep them as open as possible. Transit planning, crazy and politicized from a decade ago. And once upon a time, an early deputation back several decades ago was down in this block when there was an east-west laneway from Spadina into the center of this another laneway, and it was conveyed to the Globe and Mail ownership at the time for a paltry sum of maybe $16,000. So be wary when you close laneways, please, because we need these transit options, and it's rather dismal how we're not actually proceeding. Please don't take that personally. We have this tendency to build subways into sprawl that are just ludicrous. It's an idiotology. Thank you, Josh, for fighting the Scarborough subway extension. Integrity, you have it.
Thank you very much, Hamish. Are there any questions for the speaker? Okay. Seeing none, thank you. Melissa Bruzzese. Melissa, welcome. Okay. I'll start your clock. You have 5 minutes.
Great. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of this Community Council. My name is Melissa Bruzzese. I work at RioCan, and I represent the owner of the well, being RAD Front Wellington Front Street, Inc. First, we would like to thank staff and the councillor for working so diligently with us through the entire process. The subdivision application before you now is the next important step for us to basically move forward with the zoning that was already approved for the site in order to facilitate the future stratification of air rights to our residential partners. Just to address the previous speaker's comments about transit, just to let everyone know that we are designing for knockout panels currently in our underground, so to facilitate, a potential future connection to the smart track that's being planned on the south side of Front and Spadina. That's really all I have to say. I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. Are there any questions for the speaker? Okay, seeing none, thank you. I don't believe there are any other members of the public here for this. Just calling one more time. Members of the public here to speak to item number 11. Seeing none, thank you. Members with questions of staff. Seeing none, members to speak. Councillor Cressy.
Thank you. I'll move the staff recommendations. Just to remind this council, we dealt with both the OPA and subsequent to that a rezoning on this years ago. What is in front of us today is a technical item to allow subdivision, legal subdivision. And so with that, I'll be moving the staff recommendations. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councillor. Anyone else? No? All those in favor of the recommendations before us in the supplementary report? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you. T34.12, 357 King Street West, zoning amendment application, removal of the holding symbol H, final report. Any members of the public here to speak to this item? Seeing none. Members, do you have questions of staff? Don't see any hands going up. Members to speak. Councillor Cressy.
Thank you. I'll move the staff recommendations. This was a rezoning that we had previously dealt with, and H was put on the rezoning until some engineering issues could be worked out. Those have been worked out, and staff are recommending removing the H, and I'm supportive of that, and I'll move the staff recommendations.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor of the recommendations? Anyone opposed? That carries. TE 34.13, 520 Richmond Street West, zoning amendment application, final report. Are there any members of the public here to speak to this matter? I see you. Welcome. And we're going to make sure that we, if you can register with the clerk afterwards, and we'll get you on the record. Oh, you did? Okay. Sorry, he must be very busy. You're not on my list. If you can just state your name and you can proceed, you'll have 5 minutes.
Hello. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Rita Bannock. I am the owner of 541, 543 Queen Street West, which is immediately north of this building at 520 Richmond. Just to orient you, it's at Augusta and Queen, or close to Augusta and Queen. The building that I own is a heritage building. It's in the heritage section of Queen Street. It's a very old building. It's been there at least since 1880. We don't know exactly the year it was built. It has McCluskey windows, if you're familiar with McCluskey and the stained glass windows in the old City Hall and in many of the old churches in Toronto. It's an old building. The basement is the foundation walls are literally made out of rocks, because that's the way buildings were built back then. In other words, it's a well-maintained building. My husband and I take very good care of it. It's been in our family since 1972. But I am concerned with the nature of the building and the nature of the actual building and construction of 520 Richmond Street West. I did attend the previous meeting. I'm sure they're aware of my concerns already, but I know that when pylons are put in the ground, there's a tremendous amount of vibration. I understand buildings have to be built and progress is important, but my concerns are for the fragility of those heritage buildings on Queen Street. We are separated from 520 Richmond by Rush Lane, which is the graffiti alley, which I'm sure you're familiar with, where Rick Mercer does his report. And he had his finale show last week. He stood right behind my building. He stood right in front of 520 Richmond. And ironically, he spoke about loving the things within Canada that we have and that we should appreciate. And it was very ironic that he was standing right in front of the building that's about to be torn down for this construction. And as he walked along, I saw the back of my building. I saw the fact that that is the only place that we can take deliveries, because the front of my building on the Queen Street side, there's a bus stop, there's no parking, or a streetcar stop, there's no parking on the front side of my building. We can only take deliveries in Rush Lane being the lane that's between our building and 520 Richmond Street. So I don't think they've accommodated for that fact that this is a working lane. It's a busy lane. It's become more busy over the years. And these are my concerns. I also have concerns for my tenants. I have 4 apartments and 2 retail tenants. We take very good care of our building, as I said. They not only will lose their view, which I realize I have no jurisdiction over, but they will lose their sunlight when this building is built, and they will certainly be impacted by the building of this. But going back to my first concern, it is the construction, the shaking of these old heritage buildings. I know from living close to Eglinton when they're building the LRT that they shook up the buildings along Eglinton, and some of the people had their basement walls severely impacted by that, and I'm concerned about my building too during the construction.
Okay.
Those are my comments.
Thank you very much, Rita, for those remarks. Are there any questions for the speaker? Okay, seeing none, thank you. I see someone who would like to speak. Would you please come up and identify yourself? You'll have 5 minutes, and also just make sure you register the clerk. I don't have an updated speakers list. For any other members who are interested in speaking, please let us know, so I will make sure I call you. Okay.
Sure. So thank you, Madam Chair and members of Community Council. My name is Sasha Lozon. I'm a senior associate at Bousfields. I'm representing the client for 520 Richmond. So I just wanted to quickly come up and just say a very big thank you to staff and Councillor Cressy for all their hard work on this file. And we would like to support the recommendations of the final report. And we're obviously here to answer any questions. But before that, I'll just make a quick note that we saw that there were some concerns with regard to construction management that were submitted. And the client is happy to go ahead and meet with those individuals and groups to sort out any concerns that they may have to ensure that there's no damage to any surrounding buildings, etc.
Okay. Thank you very much for your comments. I believe there's a question for you from Councillor Cressy.
Thank you for being here. A concern was raised related to vibration monitoring. As part of the construction plan, conducting vibration monitoring, is that something that your client would be willing to undertake?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anyone else with questions for the speaker? Okay. Thank you. Members with questions of staff? Seeing none. Councillor Cressy to speak.
I have an amendment on vibration monitoring that's just quickly being drawn up. So if somebody else wanted to speak for 4 minutes, it would be ready, or we could stand this. I just want to, we're about at lunch. So could I?
I'll speak.
Kristen, if you speak for 60 seconds.
I will do the very best I can to help you run that clock. No, we won't be able to do that because we're in the middle of this item. I want to thank city planning staff. You know, this is a very long agenda. I know that there are many complicated files here, and if as we proceed through the rest of the agenda, we may not get the chance to actually thank you for all that you do. I know that even today we're having a discussion, very briefly albeit, about even vibrations and foundations made of stone and rubble, and the absolute level of detail that you get to as you review every single complicated planning matter is just astounding, to the point where we're about to deal with construction management and traffic flow. So I just want to thank you, as well as the local community, for putting up with all this construction, and Councillor Cressy. Is that enough time? Okay. And I meant that, so just so you know.
Thank you. And so I have an amendment that I will place, which speaks specifically to the detailed construction management plan that we've worked on with the applicant, as well as with the Garment District Neighborhood Association. And between now and council, I will follow up with the applicant related to vibration monitoring, and to ensure that we have that codified. So a couple words just very briefly before lunch on the process here. We've had an extensive process going back probably nearly 3 years on this, working with the local neighborhood association, the Garment District Neighborhood Association, a series of public meetings. And one comment I would make, when it was clear that the previous provincial government was going to be changing the rules related to the OMB, we all in this chamber saw a rash of appeals. And I want to really commend and thank the development partner here, Alterra, because they reached out and they were being told by many partners, you should appeal, protect your rights, you should appeal. And we said to them, you have a good project, we're prepared to work with you, stick with us, let's do this together. And they did that. And I want to commend and thank them for doing that. And on city staff's part, city staff did their part to make sure we had a final report done before this term. And so that went always, the community, Alterra, as well as city staff. And I want to thank them all. Within the West Precinct of King Spadina, this meets all of the city planning standards. It meets the 45-meter height envelope. It has the setbacks and the lane widening. It proposes, with regard to Rush Lane, to pedestrianize the north-south lane, which runs off Rush Lane. So as we talk about further animating Rush Lane, Graffiti Alley, the Rick Mercer Alley, this actually has a built-in proposal that staff support in the final report to pedestrianize part of the adjacent lane, and it even includes an on-site facility for dogs. In the interest of time and lunch, I won't say more than that, other than to truly commend the community and the development partner on this, and to thank city staff for getting it here before the break. And with that, I'm happy to move the amendment on construction management along with the staff recommendations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor. We have the motion on the screen. All those in favor? Any opposed? Item as amended. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are going to break for 1 hour and reconvene at 1:30. Thank you very much, folks.